Portugal. There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show.
Olá Bom Dia ALEGRIA, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. Good morning to you, Lorraine. Lorraine is here saying, darn, I can't stay up for this. I'm sorry, Veronica. Lorraine, you can watch it on the replay. It's not a problem. It would have been lovely to meet you in person and have you watch live with us this morning. But yeah, I understand. It's past midnight. I don't know when you posted that. 6:36 our time this morning. You can watch on the replay and maybe set an alarm for next time. Go to bed earlier and set an alarm and get up and join us. It'd be lovely to meet you. Yeah, past midnight where I am. When this starts. So thank you for your message, Lorraine. Gratefully received. As are your messages from you, Jackie, Bom Dia Gumpers, and Coach Turner. A quick update from the current Portuguese tour, Bom Dia Gumpers e Feliz Quinta, having walked around most of Coimbra Old Town yesterday morning. Isn't it lovely up there? We had a tuk-tuk ride in the afternoon. Did you find the ice cream shop at the top, importantly? It took us to places that we hadn't seen, and we learned lots. Well worth a few euros, the few euros it cost. Also interesting, we met a couple from the US who were looking for property. They hate what's going on there. Oh, what, in the US? Of course, I gave them Paul Reese's details. Good man. Thank you very much, Coach Turner. And a quick good morning from Gemini as well. Thank you for your continued comments over at YouTube on our YouTube channel, where if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like and subscribe over there on YouTube. So thank you for being here. This is the 20th of February, 2025 on the Good Morning Portugal show. Excuse me. And coughs. That wasn't a remark, a sort of physiological remark about how things are in the world on the 20th of February 2025, fascinating as it is right now. No, I'm not sure what that is. The same sort of thing that seems to be has stricken quite a few people. I hope the Portuguese is feeling better this morning. Our guests this morning are Carl Hyde, who celebrated his birthday, so it's fine to give him some belated birthday wishes when he joins us at 8:40 this morning, and Veronica, who Lorraine can't stay up to see, but we'll watch on the replay, I hope. Veronica will be joining us at 8:20 this morning. Good morning to you, Mike, who's just arrived as well. And thank you for your support, Mike. I'm very grateful to everybody who supports the Good Morning Portugal show, and it's lovely to see when those subs come in, where you've financially supported the show. So I really appreciate that. You can do that at gmpvip.com. Thank you very much indeed. And take a look at the homepage as well for all the benefits that you get for being part of this community. And they're all, if you find that a bit confusing, when you are a GMP VIP, I'm putting them all together in one place over in our classroom that you'll find, which is the Portugal Club, of course. Right, yes, so we have Veronica at 8:20. We've got Carl at 8:40. Oh, James is in as well. We have Carl at 8:40, whose birthday it was yesterday, and a special guest at 10 past this morning. Tomorrow, this week is whizzing by, is it not? I've got this down as tomorrow. It's actually tonight. It's Thursday today, Carl. Quinta, uncovering Portugal's past, the story of Philippa of Lancaster, which I'm really looking forward to. Tonight, the 20th of February, 7:30 p.m. We're going to be talking to Isabel Stillwell this evening in detail about Philippa of Lancaster, and she's also popping in this morning, so I'll get to find out more about her as she prepares for the webinar this evening at 7:30. So looking forward to talking to Isabel and meeting Isabel for the first time, and having a much longer conversation with her this evening at 7:30. The mother of the illustrious generation, that's Philippa of Lancaster. That's what she became known as mother of Henry the Navigator and Edward I think he was Edward the Philosopher, who became well, she mothered an amazing batch of Portuguese royal children, basically. That's that. I'm sure Isabel will put that in a much more eloquent way than I just did. What I'd like to show you this morning for the Bom Dia Daily, the news, which I discovered yesterday evening, was that and I'm going to go to Australia for this. Let's have a very quick look at what went on in the road race, the Algarve stage of the Volta yesterday. If you're interested in cycling, you're probably already up to speed on this, but chaos in the Algarve yesterday. Tour of Algarve stage 1 chaos as peloton goes wrong way, winner stripped of victory despite going the right way. That seems really tough and unfair to me. And there they are. That's Villamora, I think, looking at the road signs there. Filippo Ganna briefly believed he'd won the opening stage of the Tour of the Algarve before the result was annulled after a chaotic finish. That picture there from Getty Images by Tim de Waal. And this is the Australian... Their logo is not great, is it? Australian Broadcasting Corporation, I believe. I can't tell that from just looking at their screen here, which is a bit of a... This website is a little bit too clever for its own good, isn't it? But maybe anyone who lives in Australia knows exactly what this is. ABC. It doesn't say anywhere. Australian... I'm going to go with Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I think that's what it is. Anyway, theirs was the best coverage I could find of the Algarve, believe it or not. In short, this is a good idea, isn't it? In a busy news world at the moment, the opening stage of the Tour of the Algarve ended in chaos on Wednesday, Quarta-feira, when most of the peloton took the wrong road just before the finish. Italy's Filippo Ganna, one of the few to take the correct route, crossed the finish line first, but the stage was annulled. He's the greatest winner that wasn't. The peloton will set off for Thursday's second stage today with the clock reset to 0. So they're just going to forget about that bit as if it never happened. And I wonder, can you imagine being the people or the person responsible for making the signage hard to read for the cyclists such that they took the wrong way back to the finishing line? The opening stage of the Tour of the Algarve in Portugal has ended in chaos when most of the peloton took the wrong road just before the finish, and race organisers later cancelled the results. They had quite the headache to deal with, didn't they? When the riders came through a roundabout just before the home straight on Wednesday, local time, the lead car went the wrong side of the barriers. So the car took them the wrong way, and the majority of the bunch followed suit, leaving the crowd bewildered as they watched two races unfurl. The mix-up left Italy's Ganna with an easier than expected sprint finish, and the Ineos Grenadiers rider raised his arms in celebration well before he crossed the line. I know it that everyone took the wrong route and I took the right one, Ganna told Eurosport. You need to know the rules and you need to know the course. In the past, I took the wrong route during the time trial, and because of that, I lost the race. Now it's different and I win. However, Ganna's joy was short-lived. No winner's ceremony took place. The podium in Lagos was left empty. So it was Lagos, was it? And the 192.2 kilometer ride from Portimao, so it was from Portimao to Lagos, was all in vain. On the approach to the finish line in Lagos, the peloton became divided, and a large number of the riders took the wrong route, followed the detour of the support cars, and missed the finish line, race organisers said in a statement. Hastily written, no doubt. The College of Commissaires interpreted the regulations and, given what happened, decided to cancel the stage because they considered that sporting truth did not prevail in the end, race director Sergio Souza said. The peloton will set off for Thursday's second stage. So that was the first stage of it as well. Oh dear, with the clock reset to 0. All starts again. That was a warm-up, basically. Very good. Thank you, ABC, for that. We'll have a very quick look at the Portugal resident website as well, because they've got an all-new resident website over there. It looks really great. I was having a look at the Portuguese news this morning on the English-speaking websites. And take a look at this. The Portugal resident has had a little bit of a redesign, looking fantastic. I do like this. It's funny, isn't it? With a lot of software now, you get the dark... not finished. I don't think techies call it a finish, do they? But dark mode, I think that's what they call it. They've gone the other way at the Portugal resident here. Look at this, looking very lovely, right up to date. Nice new choice of typesets here, and looking very clear and nice. And my Portugal resident piece will be out today, a somewhat controversial one today, called Trump Triggering and Transformation. And I was a little bit risky because I was wondering if Ines Lopes, our editor over there, would even want to print something that seemed a little bit out there, but I mean every word of it as ever. A few more hellos then before Isabel Stillwell joins us. She's just getting ready to join us this morning to say hi ahead of the webinar tonight with Expats Portugal. Morning, Mike from Coach Turner, loving your town. That's Coimbra, of course. João Ernesto de Norte is here. Bom Dia Portugal. I think if you've got any questions about Philippa of Lancaster or the illustrious generation, or Dom João Primero, and I live on King John the First Street myself here on the Silver Coast. I'm not the only one to live on a street named after King John, but isn't that a nice coincidence this morning as well? Good morning to you, John. Good morning to you, Pam, as well. I think you like your Portuguese history and culture, and we'll enjoy the conversation with Isabel. And if you've got any questions for her, she'll be joining us for about 10 minutes this morning in just a moment. James is in as well. Feliz quinta a todos, como está? Tudo bem? And we visited Coimbra, says João Ernesto, briefly when we first came, and we've always wanted to go back for a more lengthy visit. Save the date then. We are going to Coimbra for the weekend, 12th of April. That's the next Expats Portugal weekend. So that's an opportunity to do that then, perhaps, for you, John, there. A couple more comments. Mel's in. We'll talk soon, Mel, and we'll get you on the show. Really looking forward to having you be on the screen here with us. And we've got, it'll be well worth it from Coach Turner. It's a remarkable place. This is to John, but it is best visited out of season. Does Coimbra have an out of season, I wonder? I guess it's quieter when the students aren't there. Did you see the story about Ai Weiwei being deported from Switzerland because his Portuguese residency was out of date? No way! That's a bit shocking, isn't it? I love his work. And so deported from Switzerland. I don't suppose he was expecting that. I must look that up, Pam. Thank you very much for that tip off there. Okay, let's say hello this morning. Let's give her a nice round of applause and a warm welcome to the show. Look at that, Isabel. Good morning to you. Olá, bom dia.
Good morning.
How lovely to see you. We've not met before, and how lovely to have a conversation before the big webinar tonight about Philippa of Lancaster.
Should I put the image, the phone, because I couldn't get you on my computer?
You look absolutely. No, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so lovely to meet you. Muito prazer. And could you tell us, first of all, how you got to be writing about Philippa of Lancaster?
Well, I'm a journalist, and I was working in a daily newspaper when I'd written several books about teenagers and other things. And a publishing house asked me if I'd like to write a historical novel. And they asked me about who, and the name of Philip of Lancaster was top of mind without even thinking a lot about it. And when I thought about it, sometimes I do that. First I talk and then I speak. First I speak and then I think.
Same here.
And it was the most intelligent choice, as my parents were English, both of them, and Philippa was the only Portuguese princess, only English princess who became Queen of Portugal. So it made sense. I'd always heard about her since childhood. My father was a historian, so we'd always talked about Philippa. So I tried, and I wrote my first historical novel, and it was about Philippa. Since then, I've written 11 others, but Philippa is Philippa.
Hold on a minute. You've written 11 other historical approaches around Portugal? Yes,
about 100, about 11 queens and 2 kings.
How amazing. Okay. Were you educated in Portugal yourself?
Yes, I was. Well, my father came to Portugal to negotiate, to work in the embassy, the British embassy, still during the Second World War. And he came to be part of the team that negotiated the Azores base. And then they stayed in Portugal. They had 8 kids. I was the 7th. And we were all born in Portugal, but in the British hospital, which was a little, at least they spoke English with my mother. But my mother and my father were always very into the Portuguese community, because there are lots of English at that time that came and then stayed in a sort of small English community. But my parents always got really involved in the Portuguese life and in Portugal.
How amazing. It sounds like a book should be written about that whole story as well.
Yes, I think so. I only write about people that don't have close families still alive. That gives me a bigger freedom. I'm happier
Yes.
with Philippa.
Oh, well, that's incredible. So I'm imagining you would have learned a lot about the Portuguese royal family at school. It's very precious to the Portuguese, isn't it, to know about their royal family, and Portuguese children are brought up on the historical facts of the country, especially the royal family, and it's such a great history.
Because if you think that it's the same, knowing the royal family or knowing Portuguese history is practically the same as
Yes.
as it's the Republic was only came to Portugal only a century ago.
Yeah, right. So it's an incredible history and a proud one at that. And you were clearly became passionate about it yourself. And she was top of your list. And I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people who will be joining us on the webinar tonight, because we're going to be having a deep dive, as it were, into the life and impact of Philippa of Lancaster. But briefly, what was it about her that made you just think, well, it's got to be Philippa of Lancaster that I write about? Why is she such a favorite for you?
She's a favorite because at the time I knew her story better than any other other Portuguese queen. I started to write about queens, and that was what made the difference. I didn't choose them because they were women, but I found out that very few people knew a lot about who they really were. And so that was interesting for me to find out. And Philippa is a change of a dynasty. So it's from our first dynasty to our second dynasty. And because she married very old, she would have been what in Portuguese we say she would have an age where marriage wasn't even, she was 28, and 28 was very old for that
Really?
time. Yeah.
So she'd have been thought as to be too old to be married at 28.
Yeah, so 28. But in fact, she has 8 children, so she proves that she can be a mother even though she's old. And the fact that she was old means that she had the right to a very good education, and
Yes.
that makes all the difference when she comes to Portugal and she insists that her children also have a very good education, and that education will change and will change Portugal. That education that she will give her children will make what Camões will later call the illustrious generation. Henry the Navigator, and a girl that went north instead of south, like the discoveries. And the girl was the Duchess of Burgundy, who is one of the most important medieval women. So through having a much higher educational level than it was normal for women to have at that time, I think she changed Portugal.
And would that have been something of a bonus? Because it's often portrayed in history or certain accounts of it that, you know, the princesses are brought in as like baby making machines almost, aren't they, for angry kings? Would that have been the case with her? Would she be first and foremost seen to be a woman who could produce children for the king, or was this all known and part of a plan?
They had the princesses are pawns in a chess game.
Right.
They moved around
Yes.
by the convenience of their husbands or their fathers, normally their fathers.
Yes.
And then their husbands. So it's not trying to sort of coat their life with golden colors, because it was a hard life.
Right.
But the fact that she had lots of children was her mission. I mean, women were seen as machines, as you were saying, to produce heirs, and especially male heirs. But that said, she is able to keep her children in her sort of influence, and she is able to educate them and make them be really well educated in the sense of learning, reading, learning a lot, and continue to be very related to England and Europe. And so that makes a difference. So she's a teacher also.
Yes,
She's
incredible.
a mother and a teacher.
Yes, so the very active and famous Henry the Navigator, and I believe Edward the Philosopher as well, a more sort of a scholarly child
Yes,
as well.
Edward the Philosopher is amazing.
Yes.
Even more as a character than Henry the Navigator. Henry the Navigator is an impulsive, but he's very brave also. And the daughter is amazing because the daughter will be very good at. She'll be an Angela Merkel of Europe, and she has a very unfaithful husband that doesn't care too much about government, and she'll seize that opportunity to take the power and to really make a difference.
We will find out more tonight then at 7:30 on our call with Expats Portugal. Really looking forward to finding out more with you this evening. Before you go this morning, thank you for joining us. Could you just briefly tell us who else you've written about and where your books are available, the best place for people to find them?
The biggest books is in big bookshops like Fnac or Bertrand. They might not have the translation because 5 of my books are translated into English, and they might not have it at the moment, but they'll always find them. Or directly from the publishing house Livros Horizonte, you can find it online, and you can order it, and they're very quick. They're very good.
And some of the titles, if you don't mind?
Some of the titles. So in English, I've written the translation of Philippa of Lancaster, Catherine of Braganza, the tea.
Yes.
One that Isabel of Burgundy, the Duchess of Burgundy, so Philippa's daughter. And then there's a book that I think people that enjoy letters and enjoy another period of history, that is Victoria, Mary II and Victoria, 2 queens in a world of men.
Wow. Okay, wonderful stuff. Yes, and it sounds like they're not dry historical works. These are
they're historical novels. Yes,
fabulous.
Really fully researched, but historical novels.
Wonderful. A delight to meet you this morning, and really looking forward to talking to you more this evening.
And thank you very much, Carl.
My pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much, and come and see us again another time if you will.
I will. Invite me, and I'll be here.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There she goes. That's Isabel there. I think we should keep that applause going. We should change the screen up. We are now moving into the Good Morning Portugal part of the show, and let's put on the ticker tape that encourages you to comment and to send in your pictures and videos to 913-590-303, as Veronica did when she was in Morocco. We'll have a look at some of her footage in just a moment, but let's say hi first. Olá Bom Dia.
Olá Bom Dia. How are you?
Right. Oh, look at you. Is this the view this morning, or is that how
this is the view from a picture I took a couple days ago. They're redoing our roof right now, so it's actually a little ripped up. So
that's how you prefer to see
background, right? Virtual background.
Yes.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. And nice to meet Isabel there. Looking forward to speaking to her tonight.
Right?
Because we found out a little bit about, we saw the tomb of Philippa of Lancaster a couple of weekends ago in Battaglia, and we'll be finding out about her. And I love how the Portuguese are fascinated and are very attached, I suppose, to their royal family, and how they get all the kids to learn about the what went on in the history of their country. So yes, looking forward to that this evening. As I say, you've been in Morocco. Should we have a little bit of a slideshow of your
Sure. Do you still have that, or?
Yes, I do. I've got your cooking class.
That was so much fun. It was so lovely.
Really? Maybe we should start there. And we've got a general sort of sightseeing tour as well. Let's have a look. It's a quick blast of being in the kitchen in Morocco. I think you had a good time. Is it safe to say?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Cooking was definitely the highlight.
Yes.
And the people there were just so into their food. I mean, it's a cooking school, right? But still, I mean, she was singing, we cook with love. Our food tastes so great because we love it. Hi, old guy in Europe. We just, the love that was there, and the ladies that were so kind and making sure you did things right. I mean, that was the best tangine I had there. I was forever looking for more. And I realized, of course, it was a cooking school. They were focused on each ingredient and exactly when to put it in and checking on you. And I would say absolutely do it. That was at Maison de Arab, which was one of the first cooking schools there. And it's just
Is that the name of the pot that you just mentioned there?
No, that's called a tagine. So the
Right.
tagine is the little pokey pot. And we can get them really easy here in the Algarve
I
because
bet, yes.
the boats come back and forth from Morocco.
Yeah, yeah. And did I say chicken? What did you actually cook?
It was a chicken tagine. It was great because she said she wanted to cook something very healthy for us that day since it was a little bit cooler day, and she wanted us to be great, like feeling good as we toured, which is totally my vibe. So loved chicken and veggies, and we made a few salads that, again, I couldn't replicate. I kept trying to buy them, and I wanted their recipe the way they had us make it, and do the cooking class later on, or you'll be spoiled.
Very good. Well, before we move on, let's have another quick slideshow because I want people to know how easy it is to get to Morocco, which I think
so easy.
we spoke briefly about before. But you know, we've seen quite a few people leaving Portugal for some fabulous trips just recently.
Yes.
So let's find out how easy it is to get to Morocco after this one here. It looks like you packed a lot in. How long were you there?
2 weeks, and we flew into Marrakesh. So this is one of the things that I definitely want to segue into in the future is not only real estate, you know, which is great. And I've kind of put out, it might be a time to slow down just a little bit right now until we see what's happening with NHR and some of the immigration.
Yes.
So I'm being a little bit more cautious. I've kind of got the caution flag out for moving here, and some of the
Have you?
Well, you know, I put out a post and some people are like, oh no, I was like, it just is really, we've had so many inquiries with the political situation that then I kind of go back and say, hey guys, you know, it isn't for everybody, which is what we always discuss anyway. Like you need to have some patience. You need to do your research. Don't move here because you're leaving there. Move here because you want to live here. And that's, you know, Cindy and Ray got to give them tokens for that. But when a political situation like this happens, or the economy, something happens to the economy, all of a sudden everybody's like, fine, I'm just going to move. I'm leaving. Yeah. Well, that's different than having researched and said, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. It's easy in Europe. We can hop around and travel all over Europe, learn the history, right? All of these great reasons why you want to be here, and the culture and the people, the safety, the language, which is difficult, but a lot of people speak English, is kind of to help segue us in. There's so many great reasons to move here, and it shouldn't be because you want to leave there, right?
That's a very good orientation, I think. Yes. And I'd add to that, what's come to mind, Veronica, and it's fascinating. Yeah, we will come back to Morocco, and the main idea that we're talking about today is when to buy in Portugal. But this is all very important context, isn't it? Because it looks to me, and it feels like the sort of pandemic times when people were glued to the news, finding out moment by moment, almost like, oh, what's happening now? And there is such a sense of volatility in the air and craziness. And you know, you could, well, I mean, we can look at sort of certain political figures, but things that are going on in the world seem to be symptomatic to me. They look like they're causal, but in some ways they might be symptomatic of something that's happening beneath the surface for humanity. And that is a different lens to look at this move from anywhere to anywhere else. I think at the moment is to not only try and transfer your life from where it is now and it's becoming uncomfortable to try and make it comfortable somewhere else, which might be more comfortable. I think we're in for some times of discomfort in a way. So that might be, again, another way to look at this is where would you prefer to be a little bit uncomfortable? Because I think it feels like those are the times we're moving into at the moment. For me, through that lens, Portugal still works very well indeed. This is a great place to be while the world is going a little bit crazy, I would say. But it's not a great place to be if you just want to transfer all your creature comforts from what you're used to this side of the water or this side of the continent or whatever. So think very carefully. And visually, I'm thinking, okay, where Veronica's website and social media once had a green flag on it, you've now hoisted an amber flag, right? Which is like, hold on, let's just talk about this. And I also see on your screen there this morning, helping you before you move. So very much about the planning, the consultation, yes. And do you really want to do this? What are your reasons for doing that?
Yeah. And that's what we discuss a lot on the channel. And you have such a good memory that you have to look at the why. And that's step one. And one of the links that I've got where you really go through your why and you make sure your why is fully thought out. For yes. Americans, it's a process to get here. So we do have a lot of people. I have been slammed since I've been back from Morocco. I did escape to Gibraltar because so many people that have been working on this for the past 3 years finally are ready. And it's emotionally ready, but also financially ready, because you have to think, and now with the UK, before with the UK, you could hop over, you didn't have to deal with visas, NHR was here. Now you really have to be working with those professionals. And I've gotten some backslap on that for saying work with professionals, but the people that have done it, it's so great. They worked with their financial professionals and made sure they've done things at home so they don't have capital gains hits here.
Yes,
because
right.
Without that NHR umbrella, your capital gains are going to get hit on them, right? So you have to think of global income and doing things before you get here. So it's not the time to jump over and still feel like you've got those 10 years if you screwed up a little bit or you didn't quite do the planning. Yes. So it's really, really important that you want to be here. And the bureaucracy is not as easy with AMA. I can't get through the AMA still, right? And
we heard this morning the Chinese artist was chucked out of Switzerland because he's Portuguese. This is Ai Weiwei, who must have been visiting Switzerland. And yes, as some people are discovering when they cross a border patrol, if their Portuguese paperwork isn't in order, that's not working for the country they've either managed to get into or can't get into. And we've heard about this in Germany as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right. These are serious issues now, aren't they, when it comes to IMA's backlog?
Yeah. Now, IMA for the Americans has been right on it. It's for EU residents. We've had a little bit of an issue too. Okay. So if you were already here. So yes. Again, I've had people apply from America and they've gotten through fairly quickly because many of them are managing things. They're selling their house. And again, before where I used to advise, you could sell at home, do a rent back provision. So you're in your home while you're figuring out where you want to be here and looking for a home here. It's now even more important because if you move here or you're ready to move here and then you try to sell after you actually physically move here, it's a problem. Like you really want to have sold it. Otherwise you could get hit with capital gains again. And again, it depends on your situation, and stocks and Social Security. These things have changed. And I'm not a CPA. I don't have all the answers. So, and every situation's different. So you have to talk to your American CPA and you've got to talk to one here. And so we had one just arrive and everything has been great for them. They've done everything right. They've used some of your people, which you have such great referrals. And I think they're prepared and everything is going. And they have the right attitude and they know their why. So all of these things coming together, and like you say, looking at it through a different lens or the correct lens. I think they've had the correct lens on all the time. And I'm so proud of them because even they had the paperwork ready to do the driver's exchange. I use a little school in town because it's the local driving school and I recommend them. And they're just slamming it through. So all these little things that can be a big bureaucracy, we can kind of help with, but you also have to know it's still a bureaucracy. You still have to go get your healthcare number to get the exam, to get that driver's license, right? So there's a
And
little bit.
it won't be problem free. It will not be problem free, that's for sure. But you can minimize difficulties by listening to Veronica here this morning, for example. Great to hear Veronica give such a balanced perspective. Says Simply Live Mel. Mrs. M, pleased to see you as well. Morning, Veronica. Lovely to
Hi,
see
Miss M,
you.
I love you. Where are you? Where's you want to see your little
I think she's having a little bit of a lie-in and watching the show this morning, quite rightly. Is driving me to consider Spain. I think you're being very fair there, Veronica, and Mr. S saying, according to
Wait,
Gilles,
can we go
everything is
back to
Spain.
Spain? Because Spain has just started putting out, they were talking about it in their parliament, of charging because they have the same issues with the housing prices just skyrocketing. They're putting in, or talking about putting in, everybody's fighting and going, oh no, 100% tax for foreigners to buy homes. And Spain is actually higher in their taxes for foreigners than Portugal. So you got to look at the whole picture. And this is why you talk to financial people, because you could jump out of the fire into the frying pan.
Well, yes, or from the cataplana. That's right, from the cataplana into the paella. You know, you've got to be be careful with that. And I can understand why you feel that way. And to clarify, I think on the front end, as you said, Veronica, things are working better for US and UK people looking for the D7, for example.
Yes, the D7.
The problem the Ai Weiwei's got in being deported from Switzerland, as I understand it, is the after sales service, if you like. It's renewals where paperwork isn't getting done later on.
Yes.
So they have focused on getting people into the country, which makes sense, doesn't it, to get them in and have them start paying tax and living here. But the renewals part is still a little chaotic, for sure. So be careful with that, Mr. S, about thinking of Spain instead of Portugal. Michael Heron, of course, Good Morning Spain or Good Morning España will be able to help you out with that. I exchanged my US driving license myself. It's easy peasy, says Mr. S. And how's it looking on the D2?
Done right, it's easy. Again, and I see people saying, oh, we can do it ourselves. And that's great if you're going to do it yourself, but go line by line. Someone didn't mark one little checkbox in the financials portal, and it took forever for them to get their license because they had to undo. You don't want to do something wrong here. You want it to go through cleanly. I think the gal at the school here charges like 60 euros, and she organizes all your paperwork. She inputs all the stuff, and she knows everybody at the Faro DMV. Well, not the DMV, the IMT, but the IMT. So if there's a problem, they're coordinating with you, and all you do is bring everything in. She makes sure it's perfect. She checks it off. And then she gets you hooked up with the appointment, and they just text you and say, here's when you're going to go. If you have a problem with the appointment, like I did with my first one, she resets the appointment. You show up, everything's done. You're just there to do your fingerprints and photos.
That sounds worth it. That sounds worth it.
I think for the drama that I've heard with people, and then I've even heard drama with that. Well, she said I needed this, this, and this. Well, that's why you're going to her, because she's going to make sure you have everything you need. Because if you don't, good luck when you get there. They're going to probably kick you out right away. Oh, you don't have your right paperwork. Get out. Now stand in line and make another appointment. And
and it comes back to the classic phrase, doesn't it? It depends. It depends on how risk averse or adventurous you are. These are just serving suggestions that might. Sorry, say that again, Veronica.
Or patient.
Or patient, for that matter.
Patience. If you're like, oh, I can go down again. I like standing in long lines in bureaucratic offices where I don't understand the language. Great, go for it.
Nothing better to do. Right, and I've got Mr. S saying, I knew how, of course, my dear. Do you think that's like W.C. Fields? I knew how, of course, my dear, or Gregory Peck, or is it more like Rex Harrison in the British? I knew how, of course, my dear. Deborah also here. Veronica and Carl, you are both great resources for us here. And before we move, how lovely to see you, Deborah. Oh, and your friend Lorraine was here, but couldn't stay up until you were here. Darn, she says.
She's in Vegas. Hi, Lorraine. Thank you for doing a shout out. She'll watch it afterwards.
Oh, well, hopefully she'll see the replay on that. And we had a great experience at the Aveda IMT office, in and out. We used that one, and similarly, I think they do vary around the country. We got whisked to the front of the queue, which didn't go down terribly well with some of our Portuguese hosts and friends who are waiting their turn. But the staff were brilliant with us when we went in there as foreigners. So before Carl joins us, and on this matter of Morocco, because we're going to come back and talk about the when to buy moment here in Portugal. It's a good subject to talk about this morning. Karen and I are attending a Moroccan dinner on Friday. Really looking forward to it. Good for you. So how easy to visit Morocco from Portugal?
So, and this is one of the things I'm going to segue into this year. I've started with the new magazine articles more on history, and then I'm going to do travel because originally my husband and I had started a travel blog in 2007 when we spent 5 weeks in Italy. So again, I'm going to focus more on travel because it's one of the reasons I'm here. So being in the Eastern Algarve, we have access to 2 airports. The Seville airport is an hour and a half away, and the Faro airport is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the side street traffic. From Seville, they had direct flights that took less than an hour, and they have a valet service. So it's called Park and Click, and you log on, you tell them your flight number, when you're leaving, and you literally drive up, you hand them your keys. As I got out of my car, the guy was like, I'm like, hi, I'm Veronica. He's like, yes, I know. I looked at your license plate. Here's, he had a little envelope with my name. He's like, sign here, put the key in. And I walked straight in, to the terminal. And same thing at pickup. We called when we landed. And when we came out, he was sitting in the car. It was late at night. It was a midnight flight back. Late at night, he's got my car warmed up. I only gave him a $5 tip, and he was over the moon. The entire parking for just about 2 weeks was 50 euros. Now,
and you feel like a superstar, don't you? Don't you feel like a superstar when you arrive? It's just,
yeah, and it's such an easy. It's a direct flight. We went. There's Ryanair. There's Vueling. You have to remember when you're going to a lot of these Spanish countries, Seville is an option if you're in this area, but maybe somebody comes down here, does a couple days in the Algarve, and then goes over to Seville, hops the flight. You can take the ferry, but I didn't have a great experience on the ferry when I did that. So I'm more fly. And then when you fly in on the ferry, you're up at Tangier. I was all the way down in Marrakesh and Rabat, which are much further south. And I took the train from Marrakesh to Rabat, 3.5 hours. 2 things I want to say about that. Marrakesh, crazy, crazy fun. Best thing ever, cooking school and a tuk-tuk through the little tiny itty bitty streets. And then in the train station was gorgeous, huge, easy. You cannot book your ticket online. You have to go in, but they had all these machines and people to help you. It took 2 minutes. Huge, beautiful train station. Valets that brought your suitcases on for you. Book first class. It's only a few euros more. And it's 6 seats instead of 8 in the compartments. 3.5 hours. You can go to Casablanca in an hour and a half. But Casablanca is not the real Casablanca, right? Mr. Rick's was a soundstage, and it's really modern.
No, don't say that. We want to go to. You played it for her. You can play it for me. Play it.
So they did make like a
all
fake
the bars
one.
In all the world. Yes.
Okay, they did make a fake Mr. Rick's for the tourists.
I can't go in and do that in a bar in Casablanca. Okay, fair enough.
No. But so in Rabat, it was in Marrakesh, it's crazy. All the vendors, buy. If you even look at something, you look at the pen, how much? And they'll chase you down the street. Versus Rabat was more refined, laid back. It was the capital, tons of security. I think it's fun to see one and see the crazy and the hecticness, and then go to see kind of the reserved component in Rabat. And it was so beautiful in Rabat. We stayed longer. We had planned an extra 3 days, maybe to train up to Fez. And in Rabat, we were able to stay in the Kasbah through Airbnb in the old town. There's like 150 residents, right?
I have to ask you, did you rock the Kasbah?
Rock the Kasbah. We did. We had so much fun. It was 3 stories. We had a rooftop terrace, $100. That was amazing. And yeah, we had drivers come and do the transfers for us, but you really don't need a driver if you stay inside the square in Marrakesh. You don't need a car. You walk everywhere, or you take a tuk. And then last thing is in Rabat, there's huge archaeological, I'll need to put together a clip that I can send you, huge archaeological dig, probably one of the biggest in the world that I've seen.
Really?
Phenomenal gardens. That's called the Challah, Challah.
Fantastic.
So hop a plane and do it. $20, Ryanair.
Okay, just quickly before we bring Carl on, this is not you in Morocco. But this is your column that you were talking about. Which publication are we talking about here?
So this is in the East Algarve magazine, and that picture I think was taken when you and I and Miss Emma were there with the group.
Right, yes, yeah.
And there's all the list of a lot of people miss that Church of the Olives, Oliverio, and that's where the main Knights Templars were all buried. They have the pentagram, up on the church, which you don't see that often, and the little Rosicrucian rose, and it's interesting.
Wow. Okay, so read all about it. Read
Yep.
your travelogue really in the East Algarve News. Thank you very much for being here this morning, Veronica. Let's stay right where you are because we're going to bring Carl on as well now, who had a birthday yesterday. What's it like to be 40 then, Carl?
I've forgotten.
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you have a good day?
Yeah, and a very nice day. Yeah, I'm
Excellent.
46, by the way. I think
46.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
Feeling it.
Say again.
Feeling it as well.
Are you really? Okay.
Yeah.
What, do you have a boozy one then? How did you celebrate? If I may pry?
I had a boozy one on Saturday. I went out with Lee and Eric and partners and that. And yeah, that was a bit boozy. Nice restaurant in Príncipe Real in Lisbon called.
Okay, we've got a recommendation for us. What was it like? Traditional?
Paparucha.
Paparucha.
Like a steak place.
Ooh.
Food's out of this world. Service fantastic. So,
Great.
Yeah,
Right, sounds like a great night. Well, parabéns, I will say. I'm good to have you here this morning, and we've got an important subject. After a quick catch up from you, when to buy in Portugal. You both seem to be giving me a thumbs up on a great topic to talk about, given the volatility and there's a number of factors, aren't there? Continuing interest, a panic to get here, but also the caveats that Veronica was talking about earlier on. But let's have a quick catch up from your point of view at the agency, Carl. How are things going in Lisbon?
Well, I mean, just from my perspective, I think I said this in January as well. We've got kind of a surge of people coming from, particularly like the US. I mean, obviously we know the political situation, shall we call it, whichever way you're leaning. A lot of people have sort of said, that's it, I'm getting out of Dodge now. People who are thinking about it, I heard what Veronica said before, people who've been thinking about it for a long time have now decided to pull the trigger on that. So I've got a lot of people coming from the US. I'm helping 3 families as we speak, which is quite a workload, so there's that. And then, I mean, even the UK, I was back in the UK at Christmas. I was back again more recently last week to do a little bit of business. And even there, I see videos on YouTube and things like this, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction in the UK. A lot of people happy. Not happy with the new government, just not happy with the state of the country in general. And so, we're going to see more and more people wanting to jump ship, I think. So,
yes,
I'm a busy 2025 for sure.
And are you giving people a similar sort of counsel as Veronica was talking about, moving to something rather than just moving away from something? Because we don't want loads of grumpy Brits here, do we? Who are just peed off with being in UK.
No, exactly. I mean, I think people come to me at a later stage in the process. So they might talk with someone like Veronica first, or even Heather Binder, she refers quite a few people to me. So they've already gone through that process a lot of the time, or they've already decided. But if they do ask me an opinion now, and I always say, make sure you've done your research. And it's just box standard stuff. But, again, Veronica was just saying about taxes and things like that. Make sure you get it right. Don't just land here and then find out you've got to sell a property back in the US and then you're going to get hit with capital gains taxes here, things like that. But if you've done all that and you're ready, generally that's the stage that I get them at. And then, I try and facilitate the home buying process or the renting process, depending on what level of commitment they want.
That's absolutely the right advice, I think, to plan and be considerate. However, I still think we are going to see a lot of people just turning up. It seems to be a sign of the times at the moment, and that is the history of migration, isn't it, for humanity all around the world at these times of volatility. So I still think we'll be dealing with that part of the spectrum of dissatisfaction and people just rocking up and making the most of it here in Portugal. We shall see. And you sent me a wonderful invitation to a viewing. Is that can that be shared on the screen, Carl, or is that by appointment only?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I should have had the details ready for you. I was going to ask, could we kind of perhaps jump on the show a bit nearer the time as well, but. Yeah, colleague of mine in the Silver Coast area, Dörte, German lady, fantastic agent. She's a real rock star at the agency.
Right.
she's got an open house event in March, early March. I've forgotten the date now.
Well, I'll find it for you now. I'm going to stick it on the screen. It's absolutely beautiful, this place, isn't it? It's huge as well. In a very good pick here, Lorigna. And I've had my eye on this place for a long time now. I've seen, because we go there for the dinosaur park, because the kids love it. Yeah. And, you know, and it's on the edge of town, so you don't necessarily go into the town to see it. But when I've been going over these last few years, the town itself has really improved. You know, there are signs of redevelopment, and it's not quite as sleepy as it used to be, and it looks like it's being done up a little bit. A fabulous place anyway. It was always nice, but they seem to be buffing it up a bit at the moment, and it's a brilliant location here in Portugal. I think it's south of Peniche, is it? No, north of Peniche, I believe. So you Silver Coast vibes here. 7 bedrooms. It's 8 bathrooms. So you got, I mean, why? Okay, well, that's fair enough. If you like a lot of bathrooms, you've got 8 of them there. And there's an open house, as you said, in March.
I mean, the details are on there, but I think it says as well, just so you know, it's a maximum of 50 attendants. So
it's got to be RSVP.
Interested, you know, they can get the details there and register. You do need to register before you go.
It's magnificent, though, isn't it? Beautiful. Absolutely lovely.
Nice. Absolutely.
Stunning beachfront villa on Portugal's Silver Coast, enjoying breathtaking sea views, a private pool, and elegant suites just steps from the Praia do Porto das Barças. Nestled in nature with ultimate privacy, this exceptional property is a true coastal retreat. We look forward to welcoming you. Marvelous. Okay, I'll see you there, Carl. So, anything else to say on an update from Lisbon specifically before we move into when to buy here in Portugal?
Not really. I mean, just that it has been busy, and I think it does sort of come into the same conversation as well, you know, when to buy. Because I mean, aside from having a lot of clients coming from the US, which has always been the case for me, that's where the majority of my clients come from. I do see kind of an uptick in under 35s or 35s in Portugal, because they have this this tax relief on the purchase now. So there are people who are, well, I've got one client who's 35 for another 4 months, needs to buy, you know, to save himself. You know, you could be talking 30, 40,000 euros maybe. So there's sort of upward buying pressure there, which will, you know, does affect prices. You know, so that ties into time to buy kind of thing. But yeah, it's busy. The agency all over Portugal, Algarve, Porto.
Well, you guys have hit the ground running. Very good. Excellent stuff at the agency. So let's come back to you, Veronica, on this. What do you think of this? This was your idea to talk about this, is particularly, and the three of us thought, yeah, this is a good idea, you know, in these times here in Portugal. What prompted you to want to talk about this today?
Well, because of like what Carl's saying, after the election, all of a sudden, you know, people are busy with the holidays, but then when reality hits in January, the inauguration, people who are politically motivated or afraid of what might happen are like, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm out of here today. And I think when you're in that headspace, and maybe you might have been planning for a long time, and that's the last straw. And that's a little bit different than someone just saying, okay, where in the world can I live now? Because, you know, you're moving from a very, you know, capitalist, and I also like to say consumer-based country, to one who's still a little bit socialist, and it's not necessarily consumer-based, right? Our focus here, family, friends, things are closed for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day so they can have a nice lunch with their, things are different. And so you need to kind of not just say, I'm looking for somewhere to jump ship. And like Carl and I always say, the timing also pertains to, of course, when you're in the right headspace, but not trying to time the market, because we just saw a bunch of articles come out now saying, oh, you know, this is what's happening. Housing prices are still going to go up. It's going to be a little bit slower. And all of these people trying to time the market, but we don't know. And that's such a bad thing, to time the market. When you're ready, you find the house you like, you're going to live in it for at least a full real estate cycle, which is 10 years, and it meets your budget. That's when you go for it. You don't just say, you know, I'm jumping in all in today. and I haven't really figured out my budget, or, hey, I'm seeing this news that pricing is going to go up still, so I'm going to get in now and try to flip it. And they don't realize all the ramifications of trying to flip here versus back in the States. It's not a thing here. Don't plan on that. You're going to have some taxes to get in. You're going to come in, you're going to stay in your home. And so it's always that the right time for you isn't what the news is telling you or media. The right time for you is when it's right, and you know it based on so many different factors and your why, because you both have a different story of your why and when you chose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Carl, sorry.
I didn't take my own advice, you see, so I just jumped ship without thinking about it.
But you knew Portugal was in your foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, my wife has family here, yeah. So I'd been many times and knew the area that I liked, but it was just it's the advice I would say to my clients: do not do what I did. So it's worked out well for me, and I bought 6 years ago. So obviously, you don't even have to try. You could have bought anywhere in the country, and it would have been a good purchase.
Yes,
but I would definitely say that is not the approach. And I was only coming from the UK as well, so I think coming from the US, Canada.
The approach is correct, though, because you already had been here and traveled, and you knew you were going to live here. Like, it's not like people in America going, oh, hey, maybe I'm going to move to Mexico, Belize, or Portugal in Mexico, and you're like, well, let's back the bus up and let you know that Portugal's actually in Europe. They're just seeing these websites and have never even visited. You knew, you'd been mentally, whether you knew it or not right then, doing the research. You knew the areas.
You're right. You are right. Yeah.
Portugal to the UK is kind of like our Mexico, meaning that it's sunny, it's vibrant, it's a different culture, it's a vacation destination. So many of us, especially in California and Florida and the East Coast, they've gone down to the east or west coast of Mexico and been tons of times. So they already kind of know if they could handle that culture shock or not, if it's for them. Coming from the United States to here, it's Europe, it's the EU, it's Schengen, it's
it's a culture, a massive culture shift, isn't it? And it will be the meeting of expectations and reality in probably a far greater way than us Brits would have had to deal with. Pam, took you 10 years. Same here. I first came to Portugal 10 years before I moved, but it was definitely a plan. It was in my heart. But this thing then, the timing and timing the market. What I'm hearing from what you're saying, Veronica, is that people have their preconceived ideas about what it's like where they come from, and they will apply that to the Portuguese market. And that's a good caveat I think both of you might want to respond to here. It's not like the US real estate market, is it? People are going to get a shock if they try and do the same things that they're used to. Could you say a little bit more about that? And then we'll come to you, Carl, about how it's different from the UK market as well. So how is it different from the US, Veronica?
So the things that we talk about here is Portugal is still the lowest priced place to move to in Europe. It still is for many of the regions, maybe some of the high end places, not so much, in our Golden Triangle parts of Lisbon, where you're going to have a huge mecca. But for most of it, especially the inland areas, if you like, wineries and countryside, it's a fabulous deal. Even, oceanfront, riverfront, it's a fabulous deal, 300 or 400 for, ocean views and river views in my little, corner of the world, is so inexpensive. So I think when you're looking at cost, that's great, even though things have doubled in price. So I think where people were saying, oh, I want to move there because it's the lowest price area, or I want to move there because of all these other reasons. It's really important to look at, I just have to always go back to your why. And your why could be 3 months or 6 months from now and doing that research. And when people look at the news and go, hey, someone's saying there's going to be a price dip or a price raise, and they're trying to time it, it doesn't work for them on their why and their immigration status and all of that. Oh, I forgot your original question. Sorry.
Well, it's how it's different. You mentioned about flipping.
Oh, title escrow, yeah.
Yeah, because people might think, okay, well, I'll just buy something, and that'll be my sort of bolt hole and pied à terre and my my landing pad there. And if I don't like it, I'll just flip it, like you said, or I'll just sell it because the market sounds like it's really buoyant. There's going to be no problems. Could they do that? Is that a realistic expectation, aspiration?
That's very unrealistic, but
Right.
the things that it costs money to buy here because there is no title, there is no escrow. You really need someone checking all these things for you. You need to be careful on your money. You're exchanging money. You need to be careful in the way that you do that from the United States to here. And I know you've got some great Forex people. There's things that are completely different. You can fall into a bad situation here. You must have a good agent. You must have a Carl or, an agency that's been recommended to you, because there are scams here. There's a lot of scams. I'm sorry. I'm going to flat out say it. We just got a client who had just thought, I contacted Veronica and she was busy and went to the local real estate agent, was getting stuff shoved down her throat, and called and I said, I'm going to put you with one of mine. And it went from hurry, sign this, push, to how can I help you? Let's look through what your needs are. Yeah. It's such a different mentality. And the way that Carl's trained and he's been trained is he's been under a really good umbrella of an agency who is American based. Both of them were, Caldwell Banker and the agency. And so you've got a mindset of agents being proactive, looking at the back end work, making sure you're not buying something that you could essentially not own because all the descendants haven't signed off. Just be careful. I have a whole video on careful, and it's naked.
And in shorthand, it's not how it is where you're from. Remember that. In so many situations, it might be worth remembering that. We're a little bit past 9, but I want to hear your answer on this as well, Carl, about how different it is to the UK. What sort of preconceptions and expectations have people from the UK that might end up coming a cropper here?
Well, I guess I can speak for I don't know the US market, but I know from having clients and also my own experience in the UK. So the UK is it's kind of very simple in the UK. You want to sell your house, you go to your local agent, they'll come and list it, you get a lawyer, and everything's kind of done for you. It's not a complicated process. It's quite regulated in that way, and there's clear steps along the way. And I think that's even more so in the US. It's highly regulated over there. You have to do exams and things to be a real estate agent or a realtor. So coming to Portugal is very different. I was speaking to a client recently and said to them, I don't want to scaremonger. I really don't. But I have to be very honest with them and say, you have to be extremely careful. You do need a good buyer's agent, Now, okay, I'm a buyer's agent. Maybe you think I would say that. But if you don't, there are so many pitfalls. I always say there's this, as soon as you hear the words, don't worry, that's just how we do it in Portugal, run a mile. Because you hear that so much. When you're coming to buy a house, like you just said there, maybe not all the descendants have signed off on the deal. Yeah. Maybe you're buying a place where the kitchen is on the plans as a garage. And so you go in, and especially if you're going buying cash and your lawyer is not on the ball. And I know people this has happened to. I know a guy who I sold a place for in Lisbon last year. He had an almost 4-year nightmare. He went in, bought a place cash, and it didn't have a habitation license. Even though it was pre-1951, it needed one. The lawyer didn't pick up on it. And so he had a 4-year battle, and the condominium, I think between them, paid something like approaching 40,000 euros to correct that. So you really do have to have somebody who's across all of this. Otherwise, you can find yourself with a big problem. So get a buyer's agent, get somebody that's recommended to you, because they should be working for you independently of whatever listing agent is, whether it be one of the bigger companies, a Remax or something like that. Get a referral from somebody, go to Veronica, go to Heather Binder, and let them recommend somebody to you that they've worked with, because there are so many pitfalls. It is not as regulated as it is in the UK or the US. Yeah. And it's there's just so many small things all along the way. Every single deal that I've done has been different, and every single one is having its own unique problems, and every time I get a new deal, I think, oh my God, again, something, this happened, but it does. And so that's the experience of it. So don't let somebody railroad you into, like Veronica just said, ramming properties down your throat. I definitely don't work like that. I work the opposite.
Which you might, I mean, if you're desperate, you'd like that, wouldn't you? But what I think there's a definite theme this morning. Oh, hey there, says V Cool. We'll finish soon because we're a little bit over time, but this is important information this morning. Timing is important. But tell me again about tax on first home purchases. If you have a house at 100,000, does the tax come on as extra on that? Would either of you care to comment on that? Is that enough information to answer that question?
I think
the purchase tax
starts at something like 100,000, so you wouldn't be taxed on that anyway.
Right. Okay.
It's around that figure, but the tax I was talking about before was aimed at residents who are 35 years and under and first-time buyers. That's
the tax relief for local Portuguese.
And it's a lot of money as well. I mean, if you're spending, say, $500,000 on an apartment in Lisbon, looking at saving almost 40,000 euros. So that is pushing a lot of younger people to make that jump now.
Yeah, fair enough. I would suggest Cole join us tonight on the town hall as well. And you're absolutely right, Carl. It's exempt up to 135,000. So a team effort there. And thank you, Mr. S, for your contributions this morning. I think you need your own slot. You need to come and talk to me one morning, Mr. S. And there's been a definite theme here, partly with Mr. S, and some other comments is like, well, I didn't do that, and it was really easy. And we're really pleased to hear that, aren't we? But I think
that's not the norm. That's the exception.
Not the point. And it's the point that's being made, I think, is when it goes wrong, it can be very painful. And that's the thing. It's like so much of what we do in our life. Well, that was easy. But what happens when it does get difficult? And I think that's where we've seen problems here, isn't it?
It's easy to bury your head. And the example I gave is a true one. That guy went through hell.
Yeah.
And for 4 years of hell and stress, and it affected his health quite badly. So it's not a scare story. It's not scaremongering. These are things that can happen.
That's right. And that's what you need. And that's why it's very important not to make the same assumptions about how it is in your country where it was easy. If you find yourself in the weeds, the long grass, or the sinking sand, it can be very painful and difficult. So,
and here's where the social media it's nice to hear people's experiences.
Yes.
But when you get the people that go online and say everything's great, everything's easy, everything's perfect, if you were that exception, that's great. But we can tell you a slew of stories, and we're not fear-mongering. It's true. To Carl's point, you can be a real estate agent tomorrow. Anybody here can be a real estate agent tomorrow. We can just show up and say, I want to be a real estate agent. They sign you up. Many people who cannot get jobs because they've done something wrong in their last job become an agent. And it's true. When my agent got into an agent, her husband, it's not you. We have such great ones. But the point being that when she first got in, the real estate market has this kind of real estate agent, and her husband said, I don't want you to do that. It's going to make our family look bad. And she's #1 in all of Portugal for her company. And she has been for years since. And everybody said how great she is. I was out with coffee with 2 of the buyers yesterday, and they're like, we love her. She's proactive. She's, tells us what's going on. And again, going back to that, is it the norm? Is it
Can I just say, so I know we're running
Be prepared.
I think it's just I'm into my 4th year almost of doing the real estate here, and I've seen a change. So I think it's professionalizing as a profession. It's getting more professional. A lot of people would have done it as a second job in the past. So you work for friends and family and things like that, or just somebody local. That's not as common, and more people do it as a career. And like anything else, the cream floats to the top. And if you're good at what you do and you're giving good advice, then you'll get repeat customers. So it is changing, and with the addition of new companies like the agency and things like that, you're bringing new ideas to the market and new ways of working. So you're held to a standard, like we're held to the standards of our sort of American, our US HQ. So we want to work to those same standards. Now the process may be different, but you can have the same ethics and sort of, I guess, moral kind of compass that they should be working to in the US, and which they do work to. So it's getting better.
And that's why a referral is so important. Like Carl, I refer him. It's so important to get those referrals, because when you first pop in here, you don't know which is
see.
what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, we're not trying to say refer. It's so important. It's so important. Get the right
Thank you
people
both. Cole wants your contact details, and I suspect other people who see this will as well. Best way to get in touch with you, Veronica?
info@americaninportugal.com.
That's very straightforward, isn't it? And how about you, Carl?
Carl.Hyde at the agency RE, as in realestate.com. Send me an email. You can see me on Instagram as well. I forgot my handle on the English.
It sounds like you can see me on Instagram as well with like life hacks. And
you can DM me there, find me on Facebook, things like that. No problem.
Fantastic. Okay, and an important matter before we finish, Carl, did you see the petition to rename the North Atlantic to the Gulf of Portugal? I thought that was already done. I didn't realize we needed to sign a petition for that. As far as I'm concerned, job done. But if you have the link for that, Antonio, we'll get behind that for sure. All right. Thank you both so much. See you again. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning. Thanks for sticking on a little bit longer. Have a great day. Take care. Bye for now. See you tonight for the Philippa of Lancaster webinar and the town hall. And yes, we'll see these guys again next month. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye for now.
Have a happy day.
In Portugal, there's a
Now, you know, I talk to a wide range of people who can help you move to Portugal. My advice is to go to as many webinars and to talk to as many people for their first session and see what is a fit for you. That's the important thing, is to find out what works for you and your particular circumstances, because one of the most often heard responses to a question about Portugal will be, it depends, and it often depends on you, and it will depend on the circumstances, and it will depend on if the laws just changed, and it will depend on a whole range of things. So keep up to date, go to as many things as you can, and choose the people, you know, find your tribe, find the people you vibe with, find the people who your intuition says, yes, these are the right people to work with. So just go to as many things and speak to as many people as you possibly can, would be my advice to you. But it depends, of course.
Carl rings the bell and the members show.